I'm going to introduce two people, one of which you're familiar with, the other is new to all of us, and we're going to learn a little bit of the Holocaust. We are privileged in this church today to have a survivor of the Holocaust. Not somebody whose family told her about the Holocaust. She was actually a part of it. So would you please help me welcome Congress Wasserman Schultz and her guests at this time. Come on, put your hands together, Faith Center. Come on, let's give them a great God bless you this morning. You sit there, and then you sit over here. Take your seat. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you so much. What an honor this morning to be here and a privilege to be a part of this, to be sitting next to rich history.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. And let me just start off with this before, Congresswoman, before you introduced her. We were backstage talking, and she was talking, and let me tell you something, this woman is on fire. The way she was talking with energy, and I just want to let all of you know, if you don't like Henry Fernandez, you don't like my preaching, you don't care nothing about me, this girl right here loves me. What? She was back there saying, I love you, I watch you, I think you are the best. Didn't you say that? Yeah, she said, you're the best. So I got me somebody in my corner. Praise the Lord. Would you give it up for her one more time? I just thought I had to say. Again, it's always an honor to have you here and so forth. Always, always.
Thank you.
You've proven yourself as a real friend to this ministry, and I really want to thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes. Now,
thank you, Bishop.
Do me a favor. Could you reset the clock because I took 2 minutes of their time? All right. Please, would you take it from here and introduce our guests?
Bishop, as the second fan of yours on this stage, if no one else in the room is, I am absolutely honored and really thrilled to be able to join the congregation at the Faith Center under your leadership once again. First and foremost, though, I do want to honor and acknowledge all of our veterans here today, our Gold Star and Blue Star families who have lost loved ones representing the United States this Memorial Day. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to bring this incredible woman to you, and I want to thank the Bishop for helping me take a moment of opportunity to promote understanding. Every time I've been here, that has clearly been the mission of the Faith Center. Understanding, tolerance, harmony, that we are all one. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That's what this country is about. And so the first piece of legislation, many probably don't know, that I passed as a member of Congress, created Jewish American Heritage Month, like Hispanic Heritage Month in October, like Black History Month in February. Jewish American Heritage Month was created because there are so few people in this country. We're less than 2% of the population as a community. And so it's understandable. I mean, certainly in our community, we have a large and vibrant Jewish population, but across the country, most people have not interacted with a Jewish person, are unfamiliar with our faith, with our traditions, with our culture and heritage. And so it was important to make sure that we could, with understanding and education, promote tolerance and reduce bigotry. And boy, do we need that at the moment now more than ever.
Exactly.
So Jewish American Heritage Month has been proclaimed by 3 presidents, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and now President Trump. And So it was important, although Jewish American Heritage Month is not about the Holocaust specifically, it is important because of how critical a moment that this was in human civilization, that we help raise awareness and really familiarize people with what we have been through before, so that we can really live the term never again. So it is my privilege to present one of those stories today, the story of Judy Rodan. And I'm so grateful for Judy for joining us this morning. Judy is a survivor of the Holocaust, and the memory of the 6 million Jews and millions of other political, religious, and social minorities who were systematically murdered by the Nazis must never be forgotten. The pain inflicted in that dark, historic moment fell upon many other stigmatized groups, and it will span generations. At this very moment in time, we see a resurgence of this type of hatred. Only knowledge, education, and remembrance can counter these forces. Judy was born in Czechoslovakia, and when she was 6 years old, her mother, brother, and grandmother, her entire immediate family, were taken to Auschwitz, which is a concentration camp, with the last deportation of the 450,000 Hungarian Jews. She was then an orphan. She became a hidden child thanks to a savior, a Christian woman, who kept her in an underground dungeon hidden from the world. Wow. Amazing. So many Christians, righteous Christians, did that. Judy is considered to be the only child survivor from her town of 11,000 people in Czechoslovakia. Unfortunately, in the last several years, after Judy was shepherded to Venezuela and grew up in Venezuela, she came here 2 years ago to visit her son, and because of the crisis being inflicted on the Venezuelan people, was unable to return to Venezuela, so she is in a sense a refugee once again. I'm honored to bring her to you, to have her share her experience and spend a little time really tightening the binds that tie us together. Wow. Judy?
Yes, you can. You can stand.
May I stand in honor of all of you?
Yes.
Actually, we're cousins. Quickly, I will tell you why we are cousins. Because in my youth, I mentioned to doctor, because you are a doctor of all sorts, and to Debbie and the entourage, that in the book Armageddon that I read several times over, which takes place after the Civil War, in a camp of soldiers, Southern soldiers, amongst whom is a Solomon Levy. You see, we are cousins. We went at the age of 6, my mother, my younger brother, and I went to visit my grandmother's house, which was a treat every day. My grandmother was a wonderful grandmother, like many I see here. And as we walked into the house with these long steps, I realized something was amiss. This was not the house. This was something else. I had an eerie feeling. I saw my little brother, who was a raucous child, always fooling around and running around. All of a sudden, he became still. And I saw a look on my mother's face that wasn't really my mother. The custom she had, as she walked into my grandmother's house with this grand piano in the living room, was to sit down and play. She was a pianist. That day, there was no piano music in that house. Wow. There were a lot of people there, some I knew, some I did not know. The men were dressed in suits and hats. It was not a holiday. It was not a Shabbat. It was not a Sunday. Why were these people dressed in suits? I'm talking about a 6-year-old. And the women were dressed in very tailored suits, very unusual. And as my grandmother greeted me, not the usual way to pick me up and kiss me and hug me and caress me, it wasn't there that day. And then she tells me, I want you to know a beautiful lady that is my friend. She took my hand, walked me over to the other side of the room, and she said, this is Mrs. Varias. Oh, okay, Mrs. Varias. She says, you know Mr. Varias, of course. He was the foreman in the wooden barrel factory that my grandmother managed. Wooden barrel, for the young ones here, was a thing of the past. It was the main source of storage for grains,
Wow.
ammunition.
Wow.
We're a little short on time. I will try to get in more information with the questions.
Yes.
Thank you so much for listening so far.
Okay.
Judy, I didn't mean to cut you short. I want to be able to ask you some questions. Judy was brought out of Czechoslovakia as a 6-year-old, and that introduction that you were just describing, I know, was to the woman who helped spirit you out, and your immediate family ultimately perished.
That's when I became an orphan.
So was that the last time that you saw your parents?
That was the last time I saw my mother, my little brother, my grandmother, and all the other family members, because my father was drafted into the Czechoslovakian army 2 years prior to that, in 1942, and he was killed on the Russian front. My mother, a romantic, would not leave the town of Berehovo because she thought my father was going to come back.
Wow.
Nevertheless, my grandmother knew that he was already gone, but was afraid to tell my mother, this romantic woman that would go to pieces in times of war.
Wow.
So this is why there were just us. The next day, that house became the first ghetto of Berehovo. And my grandmother, even though she was promised permission to keep working for the barrel factory and to deliver the barrels to the German government for free, that promise was not kept. And they were transported to Auschwitz, where they all perished, including my little brother, because my mother carried him in her arms and would not let go. If she would have let go of her son, she would have been spared, probably, because she was still a young woman and able to work. But my little brother was one of the 1.5 million small children that were exterminated.
Well,
Thank you.
question, what was it like knowing that you were the only survivor out of your entire family, growing up as a young woman all throughout the years? What was it like for you internally? Because there are people in this audience today, maybe it's not the Holocaust situation, but many of them, broken homes, don't have a family. What was it like for you?
I usually ask the audience how many people have had a big loss in their life of a dear one. You know what I'm talking about. And I feel for all of you. There was this deep sense of guilt. Why them? Why not me? In my later years, when I became a therapist in psychodynamics, I began to understand that I could not live with this guilt.
Wow.
And I have to come now to the next stage of my life that have helped me to no end. You are here today listening to this opus of a man. It's not physical love, it's just admiration. When it became dangerous to hide me in that dungeon or basement or whatever it was, I don't know, Mrs. Varias, my keeper, was threatened to be shot if she kept me hiding. It was a law in the Nazi Germany. Any person that kept a cleric, a communist, a Jew, a gypsy, etc., like Congresswoman mentioned, was immediately killed. It was a law. So Mrs. Varias very prudently took me in a dark night to a school, she said. Hello, it was not a school, it was a convent. I was practically a nun. Consequently, a Catholic nun, a Catholic nun. But you know, that is the beautiful part of my story.
Yes.
I found solace in God. In Jewish religion, we had to say our Hebrew prayers, but they really meant zilch. I'm sorry, but that's how it felt. But in the convent, with that black garb from here down to there, I was given a red belt to wear. Oh, I was so excited. And then a beautiful red brograne chain, and at the end was a white cross. I imagine it was something unusually but very beautiful, and I was very proud to wear it. However, I was a little rebel, and when I did something wrong, I had to don the cross for a week, and then the belt for a week. So I never saw the two of them together. Psychologists or psychiatrists in the audience, you will understand me. Of course I was a rebel. I wanted to see my mother. I wanted to see my father, my grandmother, my little brother, the whole family.
Right.
And I couldn't ask questions because Mrs. Varias had instructed me from a long piece of paper that I was not Judy. My last name was not Lebowitz. My last name was Haidu Catalin. Wow. In Europe, you say the last name first and then the first name last. So I had a false identity. I was trained by Mrs. Varias that if anybody asked for my identity, you see, I had no papers. It was the war. It was non-existent.
Right.
I left home without a doll, without a toy, without clothes, because my grandmother said, we're coming to see you next day, all of us, and we'll bring everything. It was practically a fleeing that time. So, here I am in the convent with all these wonderful nuns. The Mother Superior was this beautiful, tall nun dressed in her black garb with that magnificent headpiece. Have you seen it in the movies?
Yes.
Okay, so we're all young. All right. She was impeccable in style. She was impeccable in discipline, which, by the way, I appreciated. And now, because it's discipline, I will go to the question.
All right. We have 2 more minutes. I want to ask this question. Take Miss Judy, take 1 minute, and then Congresswoman, you're going to ask your last question. So we only have 2 minutes. Now, you know, you've been through a lot, and for me, even as a younger person, I'm quite sure you have the millennials here. What can we do to fight indifference, hatred, racism, anti-Semitism today? What can we do? What lessons, in 60 seconds, what can we do to fight this?
Bishop, you are doing it.
Wow.
Coming from the suffering I have felt, it wasn't that easy. I tried to put it in a sort of colloquial language. It was harsh. Therefore, we have to grasp, Bishop, Congresswoman, and all of you beautiful people here, we have to grasp all the information we have of the Holocaust, of all the atrocities that have happened in the world through ages. We've had it here in the Civil War. We have it every day. I don't want to mention Parkland, but I have to. We have a big job, and you're doing it. God bless you.
Wow.
Judy.
Just 1 second, please. Please. I mean, 81 years, how can you do that in 5 minutes? Anyway. At any rate, as far as indifference in your notes, I don't think we are no longer indifferent. We are with the world. We are together on this. We have the tools for it from the past. We have people like the ones next to me, people, all of you out there, to not be indifferent.
Yes.
If we see a child crying on the street, that's our child.
Wow.
The next one you have there is, wow. I'm going to go to racism.
Yes.
I said we were cousins. It's not just talk. It is. It is. Let's remember the scriptures that I was so entailed to in the convent. I did the first communion. And I will tell a little bit about this if we have the time. Sorry. So, we eliminated indifference, we eliminated racism, hatred. The word hatred I don't like. Hatred is, according to my studies, the past 40 years, is fear. And since you are so well versed on everything, I will let you analyze how we can really, really overcome hatred, not only in us, in the rest of the world. Thank you.
Wow.
We have just one more. Just one more.
Do you allow her to speak one more? Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
I don't need to ask any questions. I think
Let her
Judy's
finish
voice
it.
needs to really
Okay,
come through.
Let's finish it.
We're now into something that is a little difficult to handle because anti-Semitism is an issue. But look at the word, anti. Anti. Why are we anti anything? Why? Why is the world against anything if we are born equal? So says the Old Testament. So says Jesus Christ, who became my friend in the convent. When the priest at Mass in the convent, it's called Sacré-Cœur. By the way, they hid many little children, Jewish children, to save them from the Nazis. When he said, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, in Latin, that became my friend. That Jesus became my friend. To this day, I have all the respect, and I'm grateful to the convent people that instilled in me the Catholic religion as well as, later on, my Jewish heritage.
Wow, wow.
Judy, Bishop, I will close us out with deference to Bishop Fernandez by only saying thank you, Faith Center, for being who you are. For the heart and soul of this congregation and the love that exudes every single week, not just on Sunday, but every day, and giving me an opportunity to be able to bring us together in what have been recently dark times, that we have to make sure that darkness needs light. And that is what you do here at the Faith Center every single day under this incredible man.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you love Judy Rodan, come on, make some noise and show her love.